Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome back to Joecmdrawz. Welcome back to a new video. In this new video, we're going to be looking at the newest members to join the Goldielock Pirates, the Snakeneck siblings, the demonic duo, the abominations known as Uri and Urie. Let's get into it. Okay, hello everybody. Okay, so let's start this video off with looking at my references here. So as always, whenever I'm designing a new character, whether it's for the crew or for anything, I'm always looking for references, and so I knew what I wanted to do is make this kind of giant character because of the backstory I've got in my head. So I was looking at kind of like huge kind of like characters that already existed in the One Piece world. And the one that came to mind was from the One Piece film. I can't exactly remember, but it's the one with Douglas Bullet. If anybody can remember the name of the One Piece film, let me know in the comments. But yeah, so I wanted some images of Douglas Bullet, so I've got like one here. As you can see, he's very wide, he's very like square and boxy, and you know, he's got these huge like trap muscles here and the long hair, and the big square jaw, and he's kind of got this really hunched kind of like muscled back look. And so I wanted some of that. There were some other elements that I really liked, like I said, his long kind of like curly hair that goes like right down to his back there. And other characters that have curly hair, like this guy. I have no idea who he is, but I liked his hair design, so I kind of got a bit of reference for that. And then there was other things. So the Snakeneck siblings are a unique entity in the One Piece world, as you'll find in their backstory, and you can see from these references over here. They are actually conjoined twins by the neck. And as the name would suggest, they are from the Snakeneck tribe. And so I've got some references here, like they are from like a Dali crayon generator. They you know, I wanted to look for like two-headed people, two-headed men, two-headed like beings, or kind of like two-headed entities. Kind of just to see what kind of results I got and like what I wanted to do with it. Like there could be something like this where you have one head that's attached to the main body, and you have another head off to the side that's kind of like attached to maybe somewhere like the shoulder blade, or kind of like splayed off from the neck with some thick muscled kind of like tissue connecting them. They are a little bit ghoulish, but I mean they're just references at the moment. And this is just kind of like my reference, so this is kind of like what I'm going for. Maybe I should have gotten some reference of some sort of like pre-established Snakeneck tribesmen from One Piece. You know, I'm sure there's like some Snakeneck siblings from Big Mom's crew. Obviously, they're not conjoined twins, and they're not exactly the same as mine, but especially in terms of like backstory and abilities and everything. But they are useful references, and there's probably some other screenshots from later episodes in the anime where there's some other Snakeneck tribesmen, but that's kind of like my references. So if I just move on to like some of my initial body sketches now, I do have a time lapse of this, which I'll show in a minute, but I just want to highlight kind of like this is where I've taken from those references, and this is kind of like what I'm working with. So I'm working with this kind of like really weird body proportions, you know, this almost sort of bloated kind of like belly. I didn't know whether to make them fat or whether just to like make them just hugely muscled. Maybe somewhere, I think I ended up settling on like a mix of the two. But as you can see, this is kind of like where my head was at with like the conjoined twins. So you got like one that's like of the main body, and then there's another one that's like attached with this kind of like thick piece of skin that's in the middle there, and they can move independently of each other and talk and think differently. And then there was this one that's like the extreme on the extreme end. I was almost thinking of like a titan, you know, from like Greek mythology, like these huge lumbering creatures. And admittedly, these aren't the best sketches, but again, these are just sketches. This is just getting my ideas out the page. I'm a concept artist. That's why I view myself as. I'm not trying to be an illustrator. I'm not trying to make pretty pictures. I'm trying to get my idea out of my head and onto the canvas to kind of better, you know, visualize what I'm thinking of this crew member. But yeah, but here this is more like their like huge kind of like muscle proportions. This is more like the uncanny kind of like, whoa, this is too far. But it's worth to go in this direction, because then you can go like, oh shit, I've gone way too far. I'm not gonna go that far. So here on the left here is kind of like what I ended up really liking. They've got like a nice balance. The heads aren't too small, the necks are connected to the body, they've got like some nice proportions. They're kind of almost in the middle ground of fat and muscled. Or maybe they might look fat, but they're actually just all muscle. And I've got some like and they're like barefoot, obviously. And they're wearing nothing but this kind of like ripped sail held together with this like rope belt. Which ties into their backstory, but you know, I've got some notes here like ripped sail, sea prism, kind of chains that they're wearing, and then obviously this sail, it acts like almost like a toga, like one of those like Roman kind of like robes that they would wear. But yeah, these are just some of my initial kind of like body sketches, just to show you like the extreme and then like where I want to settle from my references. And this is kind of like what I was thinking of, and I've kind of like almost like redeemed that initial idea of the kind of two-headed snake mink that I really wanted to make way back when I did the Kingfisher video. I'll leave a card in the top right there if you wanna see that episode. But I talk in that episode about how I wanted initially Kingfisher to be kind of like this two-headed snake mink, which I think would have been really cool, and they could have maybe been ostracized and kicked off Zoe for being weird and an abomination, and I just couldn't visualize my idea back then. But I've brought it back and I've made it into this new character, these Snakeneck siblings, and I think they're much cooler, and I think it's a really cool idea to kind of almost like come and reclaim an idea, repurpose it and turn it into something much cooler. I do have a time-lapse video of this, so I will show you that now. Okay, to start this time-lapse off here, as you can see, I've just jumped straight into it. I've got my reference off to the side, as I've already explained, and here I am just kind of like drawing these like initial body designs. Like I said, I wanted to get my ideas like onto the page as quickly as possible, so I wasn't really worried about it being neat. I was just worried about getting it down and not forgetting anything that's been in my head, because it's really quite difficult to remember everything that's been in your head about whether like you think of one idea and then it kind of like spirals out of control, and then you have like a bunch of other ideas that you think, oh well, that would be really cool and that would be really cool, and then you just kind of like end up forgetting what you initially thought about like 2 days ago. So I've got these like I'm starting off with this initial sketch here. It's just really rough here. Yeah, just trying to figure out like all the muscles and how tall they would be and what they would be wearing. But yeah, it's really rough. Like, it's not that great, but like I said, it's not meant to be. It's just meant to be like, okay, what's my idea? Get it onto the canvas, and then we'll worry about it later. But the backstory for these guys is pretty cool. So initially, these two were born on the island that is for the Snakeneck tribesmen. They were born to the daughter of the chief of the Snakeneck tribesmen. I'm pretty sure they have like a kind of like tribes king or whatever, but they were born to her and to a lover. But they came out an abomination. They came out a two-headed abomination, as they called it. These unnatural kind of like creatures, they called them, and they hated them. They tried to kill them multiple times. They thought they were ungodly abominations that should not be alive, and multiple attempts were made on their lives. But their mother managed to always help them and pull them out of danger. Eventually, when they were around about 10 or 11, the chief had made a deal with the Marines. You see, the world government and the celestial dragons are always looking for slaves, and I actually looked this up. Snakeneck tribesmen actually fetch for a pretty penny when you're talking about like slaves, and so they make for some of the best slaves apparently. And so as these guys were taking up a lot of resources and food for all the tribesmen, as they are two-headed, they needed double the food, double the water, double the shelter because they were so big, everything. And the mother did their best to try and save them, but eventually, when it came around to paying the heavenly tribute, which every kind of like, I'm sure like every kind of like tribe or kind of like every place that is under like world government or celestial dragon control has to pay like a heavenly tribute to these guys, and they had to pay, and obviously they really couldn't pay, and so they made a deal with the Marines, and they said, "Here, take these abominations. It gets them off our island, out of our hair. You can have them as a slave. You can use them as like a circus animal or whatever you want to do with them, really. And we can get rid of them, and you can have this amazing slave." And obviously, they said, "Yeah, that's fine." The Marines relayed this to the celestial dragons, and they were like, "Look at this freak, look at this abomination that we can make fun out of and use until we're bored of it, really." And so they handcuffed the two boys, the conjoined twins, and they ripped them from their mother's arms, and they placed them on a marine ship and started sailing away from the Snakeneck tribesman island. And the boys were pretty distraught, like, they'd just been ripped from their mother. They're like 10 or 11 years old. They've been ripped from their mother, ripped from their tribe that pretty much just hated them the moment that they were born, and placed it on some random ship by some random guys that they didn't even know, and were told that they were going to be sold to royalty to basically be an animal for them. Obviously, these guys didn't want that at all. They didn't want to leave their mother, and they made like a huge deal and injured a bunch of Marines that were trying to get hold of them. See, it was kind of difficult because they were so strong. Even at 10 or 11, they were still quite strong because they both had their combined strength. And so eventually they were able to kind of like chain them down in chains or in thick rope, and put handcuffs on them to stop them from running away. And they would handcuff them to the boat, and they obviously were sailing away. And initially they did not want to do anything. They wouldn't eat, they wouldn't drink, they wouldn't do anything. They made everything as difficult as possible. But eventually they were so weak that they couldn't do anything, and so they were forced to they were force fed food and water until they could move again. And that's when they came up with the brilliant idea. Uri, the older brother, the one that's on the left, here with the spiky hair, he came up with a plan for his younger brother, with a plan with his younger brother Uri with an E, to escape this marine vessel, and so they since they're Snakeneck tribesmen, they can actually move their necks almost like a snake, and they can extend it. And so they extended down, and they spent several days chewing through this thick kind of like rope that was keeping them held down. And both of them ate and chewed through it until they basically could break free. They still had like these solid chains on them. Initially, I wanted to give them sea prism stone chains, but I didn't really think that made any sense since they weren't devil fruit users. But they were handcuffed and chained, and they basically chewed through the rope, and then they basically broke out of the chains, basically just by pulling and ripping the wood off of the boat. Obviously, all of the Marines were like, "What the fuck is going on?" And the boys basically just, again, now a couple of years older, about 12 now, they would basically fight the Marines. Now they were a lot stronger, and they would injure a lot of Marines, and they would knock them out and really injure them really, really badly. Now, obviously, since they'd been sold as a slave, they did not have any rights, and so they basically stripped them of all of their clothes, all of their possessions, apart from these ornate neck rings that their mother had gifted them. And that was the one thing that they would not let go or have taken from them. And so they did that. They fought all these Marines. They ran around the ship pretty much butt-ass naked, and they basically were running around. One of them had the thick rope that was held down, that held them down, and the other one was they were running around, and then they jumped on top of the sail. They basically careened down off of the sail and ripped a huge portion of the sail off, and then they just pretty much fell into the ocean. The Marines kind of just left them because they thought that they were basically just left for dead. And basically they practically were, but they ended up eventually kind of washing ashore on top of this this tiny island that you really couldn't even see from the ship, and they washed ashore on there, and that's pretty much where they began their journey of trying to survive. And they basically spent most of the rest of their lives basically fighting off large, poisonous and dangerous animals, killing them and eating them, basically becoming the apex predator on the island. They would dominate all of the other animals and basically become the most dangerous creature on that island, until our little crew of Goldielock pirates now they were sailing around and looking for some place to kind of like get down to rest, and they ended up stumbling upon this tiny island. And as soon as they set foot on the beach of this tiny island, the siblings attacked them. They attacked them like rabid animals, and basically the crew and them fought for several days until the crew eventually pretty much just wore these guys out. Basically, they had been fighting for like 2 whole days, and they displayed impeccable physical armament haki, basic like observation haki, and they even had conqueror's haki that they were basically kind of almost haphazardly infusing to their physical attacks, but they were basically fighting for days upon end until they basically collapsed from exhaustion. They were so impressed with the fight with the crew. You know, you had Blake and you had Captain Goldielock and they had Kingfisher all fighting them, 3 of them at the same time, and they had such a good time that basically they really enjoyed themselves. And it's been a while since they'd talked to another person or anything apart from them each other. Since they had each other, they didn't go insane, and so Captain Goldielock loved their power. He thought with their physical strength and their mastery of haki, just natural haki, they would be an immensely amazing addition to the team. And so he asked them, will you join us, our crew? You can fight as much as you want, you can kill as much as you want, and you can basically do whatever you want. And they thought, well, that's brilliant, we hate being on this island anyway, we want to leave. And so they ended up joining the crew. It was a weird way that they joined, because they were fighting and then they ended up becoming friends after fighting, but pretty much that's their story, basically being sold as slaves to the celestial dragons as some sort of like weird pet. They ended up just killing a bunch of Marines as young children, escaping from the Marine vessel and left for dead to drown, basically, washing upon the shore of this tiny little island until the Goldielock crew found them, fought them for 2 days, and then ended up becoming friends. So I think that's a pretty cool backstory, but we're coming to the end of the time lapse here. But yeah, this is where I'm starting kind of like the actual facial kind of like sketches here. Okay, moving on here, and moving on to actually some specialized kind of like face sketches, trying to figure out what these 2 brothers actually look like in the face. You know, I've got those initial body sketches done, and now I've got to do the actual faces. So here I've got my reference to the side there, like I said, Douglas Bullet. I already started a sketch on the right there, as you saw in the last recording, but I didn't really like the other one, so I wanted to like redo it. So this is like that one. I didn't see him start off with the head. I'm going for more of like a aggressive, kind of like almost predatory animal kind of like look. Like, you do not want to come across this person, like this character, because they will literally rip you in half. So I was taking some inspiration from Douglas Bullock. I think I took a little bit too much inspiration from Douglas Bullock, to be honest. I think, you know, he has his own unique look to his face, and I think I was drawing too much inspiration from him. And here's when I'm really trying to get into drawing dreadlocks and trying to figure out, okay, how do I want their hair to be? It's almost kind of like a Tarzan situation where I want their hair to be like wild and unkempt and like matted and almost like thick ropes. So here I've got an illustration here. I think it looks okay for a sketch. Like, it's got the wild hair, it's got like the unique kind of like aggressive facial expression. I think, yeah, I was struggling a lot with the mouth here. Like, I wanted them to have like this cocky kind of like aggressive smile. Like, you do not want to come across them because they will actually legitimately kill you. Like I said, they've been on this small tiny island for years. And they've basically been fighting large creatures and eating them pretty much raw. As being children, they have no concept of fire, and so they would just eat all of the animals they killed raw. Here I've moved on to a much better sketch, which serves as the base for the final illustration, or at least an inspiration for like how they look, how he looks finally. And here I wanted to lean into more of the Afro-Caribbean kind of like look for the character, and I've got a little inspiration from like Rocksteady Zebek in there as well. It's definitely the hair, as someone pointed out in the community tab when I posted this there. But yeah, I got kind of like the I wanted them to be more like Afro-Caribbean. That's how like I imagine them to be. That's like how I imagine where they were from. They would be from. Remember when, like, I don't know if anybody's seen it, where Oda said he would showcase where all the crew would be from if they were from the real world, and where like Luffy would be from Brazil. These guys, Uri and Urie, would be from like the Caribbean. That's my kind of like thought process, as they're kind of these dark-skinned giants that would kill you without a second thought. And in the end, I really actually quite like this kind of almost spiked starfish hair. It was like, I didn't have any reference for Rocks, but his kind of like hair really does remind me of him, and I actually quite like the way it turned out. I think it's a pretty cool headshot of the character. And here I'm bringing in those classic neck rings. Now, these were actually inspired by a real tribe in the real world that actually do use like neck rings to stretch their neck, and I think I subconsciously just added these in since I think I was actually aware of the tribe. I just didn't know what they were called, and I'm not sure actually what they're called now. I'll have to look it up later in editing and post here, but I really do like that look from him. I think that's one of the better sketches here. And here I'm just kind of like doing a side profile just to see like what would this hair look like from the side, as it's a little bit unique. It's pretty much just all over the place, like these matted thick like locks that are like stood and splayed out. So I'm trying to figure out like, okay, what does it look like? I've got this kind of like eye scar there. Like I said, they've been living on this tiny island for years now, and so they would have accumulated quite a lot of like physical scars from all the animals they've been killing, using their naturally learned haki, which I think is pretty cool about them. They haven't been taught how to use haki, they've just naturally learned how to use it, which I think is pretty cool and sets them apart from a lot of the other characters. They don't have a devil fruit. I was thinking about maybe giving them some sort of like chimera devil fruit to make them extremely broken, you know, because they're already kind of like a hybrid already. But I think just having them have naturally taught like haki, they just taught themselves to survive out of desperation, I think is really cool. Here I kind of like really over like pushed the chin there because I wanted them to kind of have this like bottom chin like overbite or like underbite, but I don't know how well that turned out. But I do really like these sketches here, and I'm actually getting closer to the final design, kind of what I wanted. I struggled a little bit with this nose here, but in the end I'm actually kind of really happy how they turned out. Okay, and now we're moving on to the younger brother, Uri, spelled with an E. I'm again working on some facial designs and facial sketches here. I do have some other ones that were drawn separately off, like not recorded, because sometimes I just want a nice balance between recorded sketches and then non-recorded, just so I can talk about it a little bit better. But here I've got some reference off to the side here. I've used a lot of references for this for these characters, as I wanted to get like the look of dreadlocks right. I don't really know how to draw dreadlocks that well, and so I thought I needed a lot of references. So off to my side here, I've got some references of just some nice shots of some people with like short and long dreadlocks. I want to, again, like I said, explore what kind of look I wanted for the younger brother. So Uri is pretty much the younger brother. He's the one on the right with the long dreadlocks, or just the dreadlocks, and he is almost the same as his brother Uri. He loves fighting, he loves eating, he loves like doing all sorts of physical activities. He likes taking down marines and destroying ships, and he loves pretty much all the same things as his brother does, but there are certain things, like he doesn't like certain foods. He likes different kind of like music. See, when they join the crew, they get introduced to a bunch of different stuff that they never had on the island. So we're talking like music and different types of food, and just a bunch of other different stuff. And so the brothers tended to kind of like different things. Some of them liked different music, some of them like different food, and so Uri here is just slightly different than his brother. Apart from having, like I said, these dreadlocks, and I wanted to give both the brothers two different looks because I didn't think that having like identical twins would make for a really interesting design. I could have done that, which probably would have made this project a lot easier to do and this video a lot quicker to make, but I thought, what's the point if I'm making a two-headed character? What's the point in kind of designing them and then making them exactly the same? That would just be boring. So I wanted to make them both unique. And so Uri here, the younger brother, has like these long dreadlocks, and I wanted to give him a different look. So I'm trying to take different elements and practice drawing dreadlocks, because I might need to do this again for a different character. But luckily there's a plethora of really nice images from Pinterest and Google to draw from. But yeah, so this first sketch here, it's nothing too crazy. I was just trying to use my references off to the side there to basically determine what his hair would look like, because I think it'd be really cool if there was some sort of animation of their like dreadlocks flowing in the wind as they're like on top of the mast of the Goldielock pirate ship, and then they jump off and jump onto another marine vessel and just completely destroy it, which I think is really cool. I did kind of struggle with the face a lot in this one. I didn't really know what to do, so I just kind of went back to a standard kind of like looking kind of like angry. It's just the easiest thing to fall back on, as they are quite hyper aggressive. But overall, I quite like it. I thought about maybe adding kind of like some sort of other clothing onto them, like headbands or something, but I decided against it. I do kind of like their like rough look with just like the sail that they've haphazardly strapped to themselves with the rope belt. I think it's really cool. It makes them feel free, and they can do anything they want. So that's my first sketch there, which I actually quite like, actually. I think all the sketches during this long process for this character, this character is I like them, and I really do like drawing dreadlocks. I think they're a really fun thing to draw, as you can do a lot with them actually. I'm just adding like little details here and there, but that's the kind of like first sketch or like exploration of this character. I've done quite a lot actually. I think I've done like maybe 6 designs trying to figure out what this character looks like. But that's the first one there. And then we'll come up to the second one. That's another one that I did previously that wasn't recorded, that I like, but I think I kind of fucked up with like the shading and everything, so I don't really like that one too much. But yeah, I'll move my reference up there, and I'll start moving on to the next sketch. So I'm trying to take more inspiration from this piece of reference up there, this young man with the glasses and the long dreadlocks. Just trying to figure out what I want to do, whether I want them to have bigger noses, whether I want to have lower brows, a bigger jawline, that kind of stuff. These are just like really rough sketches. They're not the greatest, they're not the best, but like I've said before, I'm a concept artist. I'm trying to concept ideas for what these characters could potentially look like, and I think it's nice just to go back and re-look at the sketches that I did. I actually quite like this one as well. Is kind of like thick, clumped together dreadlocks, make for a pretty interesting design. I feel like the younger brother would be far more aggressive, as he wants to catch up to his brother and be useful to his brother, as he controls the right side of the body. He would want to be just as good as his brother, so he would be hyper aggressive. He would be the first to kind of act, and he would be the first to speak out against anyone that's like trying to attack the crew or attack them. Uri also really enjoys, him and his brother also really enjoy being able to physically spar with Black Oil Blake, as he's just as big as they are. Like I said, because he's like a true mix between a human and a giant, and so they have lots of physical bouts on top of the ship. So they become really fast friends on the ship. But I really like this sketch here. I think it's nice and quick and fast, and you feel the energy from it. Okay everyone, so that was like the first kind of like batch of head sketches, and you know, I showed you the time lapse of me doing this, and I really actually did enjoy doing these sketches. I think it's really good to get all of your ideas out as quickly as possible, and even though they might be messy, I think I really do like them, especially this one in the middle here. I think it has a pretty cool energy about it and shows his kind of like almost instantly like animalistic and aggressive nature. But he also kind of like this one off to the side here, which has much more of a comb-backed kind of like hairline. He has like these thick, almost like Tarzan-like dreadlocks that are coming down, and it's much more of like a relaxed kind of expression, almost like mild anger. He has no eyebrows here, which I think is cool. He's got a bigger nose, and he's kind of like got this ticked-off expression. And there's this one off to the side, which is completely different style of hair, which almost look like fingers or sausages or whatever, and much shorter dreadlocks, and he kind of like has a different expression on his face there, and you can see more of these like iconic rings that they have on their on them. But here's like the second batch of sketches. Now you've obviously seen these on the community tab as well, but this was actually the first round of sketches that I did, and I actually really liked them, but I definitely think that the hair was way too complicated. Like I really like this first one. Here's when I was still doing like the big chunky rings that they were wearing, instead of switching over to the smaller compressed rings that was on the final design. And I do like these ones. You know, I've again got this kind of like angry, kind of like annoyed expression. I don't know what I was going for, just some sort of like neutral expression I could redraw. You know, but I do like these ones. I especially this one in the middle here. I think it has a really cool balance of like, you know, visual elements for the hair for you to look at, and obviously these are hidden behind the hair. And he's got this small chin. He's got his nose there, which I actually took inspiration from Kaido. He's got like this big kind of like scar on his forehead there, which I actually do like, but I never really kept. and then kind of like this almost mop-like hair that I thought if you turned like to the side, or if you saw from the back, it'd be kind of big and long and chunky. It'd probably maybe stretch down to their back, you know. But I really like these sketches as well. I'm super proud of them, and even though I didn't use them, you know, I still really like them. So that was those designs. I just wanted to really touch on them, just so you can see them. But here is the final concept, and I've shown this on the community tip as well. I think showing more of my stuff is really helpful, so you get to see what I'm doing a lot more often. But this is my final concept for the brothers. I really like it. Like, it's got all the elements that I like, and it's also got some colour on it now. And as you can see, the brothers actually together as one being. I really like the way that the heads kind of like sit on the body. Here I actually switched to using some reference of the Hulk, as I felt like he had a much closer body type to what I envisioned the brothers having. So it's less fat and more muscle, but I think them being made of pure muscle would be really cool, and you get to see most of that. And even when they're offered clothes by some of the crew, they really just don't want to wear it because they've been wearing this ripped off sale for goodness knows how long, maybe 10, maybe 20 years, and it's sentimental to them. It shows that they took their freedom back from the Marines, and it helps them feel free. And they say when they're fighting, it makes them feel free, and they can do whatever they want, and they can. It's just really freeing and flowing for them, which I think is pretty cool. And they've got like these bandages here. I think it breaks up the monotony of like the main kind of like body design here. I think I'd like to akin them to more of like a berserker, or more like a Hulk type of kind of like character, where they are intelligent. Don't get me wrong; they're not mindless kind of like beasts. They can speak. They have intelligent conversations with the rest of the crew, but they just love fighting, and they love destroying marine ships, and they love stuffing their faces with food that they stole from other pirates, and they just love doing. They love just like completely making like the marines shit themselves when they jump in the air and they catch a cannonball that they fired at them, and they just crush it with their haki. I think it's really awesome. What's really cool about their body here, though, is it's unique, obviously, since they're two-headed, but they have two brains, but they share one heart, and most organs in the body, even a reproductive system that they share, but they also control one side of the body each. So Uri, the younger brother here, he controls the right side of the body, the right side of the right arm, and the right leg, and Uri, the older brother, controls the left side, so the left arm and the left leg. And I think it's pretty cool how they work together in complete tandem and to just demolish their enemies. What's really cool is they have this really cool move that I've made up, where they surprise their enemies by getting up behind them, and then they both kind of like get their arms, and then they kind of bring them down on their enemy from each side, and just before impact they activate armament haki, which makes their attacks even harder, and you basically just crush your jawline from both sides, and they just completely crush your jaw, so you can't even scream for help before they then just like pummel you into the ground. Which I think is a pretty cool move. I think I called it like the Jawbreaker or something. I think it's really cool. But I really like the colours on these guys. It's just simple, you know. Like I said, I wanted them to be more Afro-Caribbean, so they are darker skinned. Especially since I've been spending a lot of time on a small island that has not a lot of trees, so they will be getting most of like sunlight on their actual skin, which will make them darker. But I really like the colours in here. They've got like this dark brownish purplish hair, which I really quite like. I don't know why, but I really like drawing Uri's like afro kind of like dreadlocks here. I think they're really cool, and it was really fun drawing them. Yeah, that's the brothers. Next up, I'll show you the wanted posters here. These are actually more finalized designs of the brothers, and as you can see, they're being captured. I thought about making like one final kind of like wanted poster with both of them in it, but I think that would just be boring, and I think it'd be much more interesting if they had separate wanted posters. So obviously it says Snakeneck Uri and Snakeneck Urie, and this is how I imagine it's spelled. But I like that there's two separate ones here. I just really like that. I think, you know, there's no character in One Piece that has two wanted posters of them, you know, but they're also the same person, you know. And I just thought I'd create some sort of like fiery background, you know, maybe they've just destroyed a ship and someone's managed to take a picture of them simultaneously or something, but and have cropped it and made two different wanted posters. But that is the Snakeneck siblings Uri and Urie, from my initial concepts to their backstory and all the sketches and everything. But yeah, I really do like this concept, and I hope you guys like this character as well. You know, it might not be everybody's favourite character, but I really enjoyed designing these guys. It's taken forever to do, but in the end, I'm probably still not happy with it. But you know, I think for my skill level and what I can do right now, I'm pretty happy with it. So if you did like this episode and you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share my work around, and wait for the next video. And I'll see you guys later. Bye! Hey there, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share my work around. I'll see you next time.